Welcome back to the Social Seller Podcast with Conor Paulsen, where we interview the world's highest quality communicators, professionals, business owners, creatives, and everything in between. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. If you're a high quality communicator, there's a good chance you're living a lot happier life, but you're also bringing those opportunities into your life almost like a magnet. My guarantee is that on this show, we only interview people that I, one, look up to, and two, that I know are going to continue to kill the game for years to come, and I want to make sure they're on your radar. But what I've learned is by asking the best questions, we get the best responses, and that's what the highest quality communicators, our social sellers, are all about. Let's hop inside to the Social Seller Podcast. Welcome back to the Social Seller Podcast with Conor Paulsen. Today we have a special guest, such a special guest that we have to hop right in, right? Now we have not only our first doctor on the show, but you're about to be mind blown. I know I was when we first met about a month ago. This is Dr. Dave White, renowned executive coach, Dr. Ncaa men's basketball referee, best-selling author, entrepreneur, LinkedIn influencer, amassing over 56,000 followers. I didn't know that until today. I knew it was big. A husband and father of four. And I love that because that was the one thing you wanted to make sure I included, because I know that's what you prioritize and what you value above anything else. I'm so glad to have you here. I know you made the drive down. Appreciate you, and so glad to meet your son too.
Yeah, we got Chase here, so it's awesome.
Right, Chase, you're the man. The San Diego.
And he's number 4, but I actually have 5. But he likes only 4, right?
Oh,
but
right.
I have 5 kids.
Ended at 4.
End it there.
We
I'm
listen.
like, we're going on.
I love it. Well, what I love, Dave, is you and me connected through LinkedIn, and you had mentioned, hey, I'll be in San Diego here, and was super kind. We grabbed breakfast together, definitely vibed. I've been fortunate to meet quite a few coaches. I'd go as far as saying I've had conversations with at least 1,000 in the last 2 years, right? Wow. That's a part of our business.
Yeah, wow.
And you stand out. You're different. And I'm excited to unpack that. So where did you grow up, Dave, and what brought you to San Diego today?
Well, I came down because I'm here to see Chase and to see you. But I'm a native Californian. I was born in Santa Barbara, raised in Valencia, went to UCLA. I've had the privilege of traveling all over the world, 70 countries, and living in 4 of them. But I'm a Californian at heart, so it's great to be here.
I love it. And there's so many things I want to unpack. I'm so excited. My mind's running, and it's like these 4. Right off the bat, because of the timeliness of the NCAA championship, I know you're an UCLA fan. That was rough, first off. I don't want to talk about that.
But I'm super proud of the Bruins. They showed up, and they gave us what we wanted, right? They gave us good games, and they were underdogs, and they were victorious a lot of times, and then it ended how it should have ended, right? If you're going to lose, you lose on a half-court shot, right? You don't lose because of your mistakes. You lose because the other team they got the last shot.
Yeah. You were the first person that came to mind when I saw the highlights the next day of what happened. I was like, that'll be interesting. But no, I knew you've always...
Well, when I was younger, I think I would have been just, but as you mature and you're super refined, of course, you love the journey. And it's like, you know what? They gave us a great journey. Yeah. So good for UCLA. And the refs did pretty good too.
Yeah.
Because I watch the refs more than I watch the players.
Exactly. And that segues really well into the real first question that I was excited to ask. I played a lot of sports growing up. Basketball, one of them. And I stopped playing, I think, sophomore year of high school or something. When we had our conversation, we started talking about, you being an NCAA ref for what now? Like, how many years?
Decades.
Decades.
4 of them.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was going to say 40, but I would hate to say 40 and then you go 30, right?
Well, I'm only 39, so it doesn't make sense.
Oh, you're right. These numbers aren't adding up. Oscar, get the calculator out. And I want to know, could you just explain to the audience and for anyone else listening, because this just blew my mind, help me understand what an NCAA ref's role is on the court. Because I think as fans, I was almost raised just almost like not really liking them, right? Because they were the ones like trying to stop the game, or they were like the ones trying to call me out because I was throwing an elbow, which I probably was, right? Now, at the level that you get to officiate, you're dealing with some of the highest level athletes in the world, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of these people are going on to play pro ball, and you're seeing them right before it.
Right.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions that people, like you're speaking to fans, that they don't have an understanding of that you're providing, and how you're kind of leveraging the game?
Well, any of you that have watched a basketball game, you're typically watching what we call live ball. You're watching the refs while the game's actually going, but that's not when our officiating actually really takes place. The best officials are dead ball officials. That means they do all their officiating while the ball is not in play. In other words, during timeouts and stuff, I go over to the bench and I'm like, Conor, quit grabbing his shorts. Number 42, stay vertical. Number 11, quit jabbing him. Like I'm actually trying to get buy-in. In other words, I'm doing relational things, what I actually call officiating. Any 18-year-old can blow the whistle. Any good guy with some vision can call a travel or a foul. But can you talk the players out of it? So every time we blow the whistle, we have to stop the whole damn game. And like, how many times do you want the game stopped? I mean, you stop it too many times, it's not a game. It's not a game. It's like, this is a frickin' train wreck. So I got to get them to do what I want them to do without blowing the whistle. That's my highest priority, to serve the game. I like to think here in California we have CHPs. You guys have seen them. And when you're driving, if a CHP pulls up behind you, maybe even flashes their lights, what do? Don't you normally like take your foot off the pedal or try to drive a little better?
Oh, yeah.
Good officiating is about presence. Good business is about presence. Good marriage is about presence. Being there and being in the right place and letting them know, hey, I'm right here. You want to drive crazy? I'm happy to ticket you and pull you over. But if you see me, and you feel the gravitas of my presence, a lot of players will take their foot off the pedal and actually play clean and well, and the game goes great. And that to me is like the secret, right? Serve the game. The goal's not about us policing people. It's about serving them, getting buy-in, building relationships so the game goes smoothly.
What I love there is that you mentioned like the best officials. The goal is to keep the game playing. Right? Like you don't want to stop the ball.
They didn't come to see the refs. I mean, that's a shocker to young officials, but they came to see the players.
Yeah.
And they don't want the game stopped. They love a game that's moving and dynamic. But to do that without them all colliding and doing things that are unfair, you either have to, hide your car on the side of the road and come out and ticket a lot, or get out there with your car and make sure they feel your presence. So they're like, don't play like cuckoo, play well. And
yeah. And I know from our previous conversation, we'll dive into it here in a little bit. I was asking about like some of the most intense coaches you've dealt with, and you've worked with Bobby Knight, like, oh my gosh, just the list goes on, right? And I want to bring that up in a little bit. You've officiated Ncaa basketball games, and primarily you're on the West Coast, correct?
Primarily, yes.
Now,
absolutely.
one of the things that blew my mind, and maybe I wasn't a smart enough athlete, is that will you tell the audience how many referees are on the court at one time?
Yeah, there's three at a time. So if you have a normal game, you have 10 players. If you divide those 10 players by 3 referees, you're going to have, 3 to 4 players per referee. We think the most dangerous person on the court is the defender who's going to try to do something with the offender. So if I have 3 players or 4, usually only 1 or 2 of them are actually the defender. So when I'm out on the court, I'm watching 1 or 2 people. I have all 10 players in what we call our field of vision. I focus on my 3 or 4. I frame my 3 or 4, and I focus on my 1 potential problem child. And so it's like good business, right?
Yeah.
In life, you take a complex problem, like you're not going to watch all 10 players go running around crazy. You break it down, you divide and conquer among 3 officials as a team. You kind of have that field, but then you frame your responsibility, stay in your primary area. We don't watch the whole court, and then focus on what you think you need to focus on to do a good job. And that's a lot of just life, right?
Amen. Amen. What it's also telling me is like, well, I got so many fouls. Because I was definitely probably that person they were looking at. And we're talking like high school level, right?
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, and a lot of things too, when I work with young officials, they watch the ball. All 3 officials are watching the ball. I'm like, the problem could happen off ball. I mean, someone's going to knock someone out. Someone could punch someone out and lay on the court and none of the referees even saw it because they're all watching the ball. A lot of businesses like that. They're all watching something. It's like, you better be watching over here too. You better be thinking about future trends and how COVID's going to affect you and everything, not just this week's stuff. And so, you got to divide and conquer well, or you're going to miss it.
Yeah, and just real quick, what are like the titles? Because I did not realize there was like 1 head official.
Yeah, that's called the referee.
The referee. So there's only 1 referee on the court. This is something, I thought all 3 were referees.
It's actually nicknamed the R. And then you have 2 umpires, U1 and U2. And that determines like where you stand on the opening jump ball, and the R typically throws the ball up. And if there's a complication between the three in terms of a disagreement, the R actually gets to make the final call.
I love it. Adam, we had lunch earlier today, and you told me there wasn't an umpire on the court. You're like, you're confusing baseball. And I was like, I played baseball. I swear to God, we had this conversation.
I know. Well, that's secret. If you're watching a game, you see three referees,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
they all look like they're dressed the same, all have the same whistle. But behind the scenes, we actually have a ranking with the R, the U1, and the U2. So
I love it. I love it. Thank you for the clarification. I hope that opened some minds too, because I didn't know that, right? And I have a different level of respect just from this conversation, our previous conversation, and today, for anyone officiating game, right? It's hard because it almost seems like you have the target on your back, right? And it's almost a good thing that you're not wearing glasses, in the sense of like what I've always heard people in stands yell. And now I want to switch the topics, right? The social seller goes way beyond sales, way beyond business, and just being the highest level communicator, right? Yeah. It's not a high ticket closer. It is being a congruent, authentic individual that knows who they are and authentically leads, right? And when you communicate at that level, magically you become this magnet to life and opportunities.
Right.
What was the first product or service you sold, and what age were you?
Oh, gosh. Well, I started a newspaper, throwing newspapers and selling seeds when I was a young kid and all kinds of stuff. And then by the time I got to UCLA and I was in college, I actually started a leadership camp in 6 different states called Ncaa, National Spirit Ambassadors. So that was my first like real business with hiring people and traveling and providing services. But it doesn't matter what you're doing. It's all about people. People don't want to be with fake people. No one wants to be with a poser. No one wants to be with someone who's slick. They want to be with someone who's real and authentic and actually cares about them. I mean, good business is actually saying, it's about you. It's not about me. Good reffing's that. It's not about me. It's about you guys. How can I serve you? And what you're doing, which I love, is you're actually providing service for people to say, if you have some goals or you want to accomplish some things and we can help you do it in an authentic, real way, it's a win-win.
Thank you. Yes.
You're doing it, which I
love. It's a congruence. The older I get, the more I realize, like, these little life metaphors that Grandma Carol and Grandpa Joe and Grandma Dolores always said, there's truth to it. And the older I get, and my dad, my parents, family, there's truth to it. And I'm glad
business problems are always people problems. Life is always about people.
Business problems are always people problems.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, I mean, you might have a marketing thing, you might have a product, a delivery thing, but ultimately there's people involved. It's not all AI and automation, it's people. And if you have good people, even if you make mistakes, even if you blow it, like I could ref a game and make a mistake and the game will go fine. But one of my rookie referees could make the same mistake and the game will melt down because they're going to be all over him because he hasn't earned the respect and the trust over the years.
The court cred.
Yeah. So when you're relational, it's like they don't need you to be perfect.
Yeah.
They just need to know that you're not going to screw them. You'll make it right. If you blow it, you'll get it back. And good business is like that. And that's what you are. That's what you're about.
I love it. And I love that you state that because it was always this ambiguous thing running in my mind. But it's like if a ref blows a call, it's like oftentimes they know like, oh, we got to give it back somehow, right? It comes back. Usually, I don't want to.
Well, you certainly want to own it, right? A coach or a player might go, I think you blew that. And it's like, I think I did too.
Yeah.
Where can the coach go with that? I mean, you're not defensive. You're not guarded. Now, you obviously can't make mistake after mistake after mistake and still be ref in the big leagues. But they don't need perfection. They just need to know you hear them and you listen and you could be wrong and you make mistakes. And now there's even more provision. We'll go to the film. They'll let us actually go to the table now and watch it. It's like we're eager to get it right. Trust me. We don't want to make mistakes. And business is like that too. It's like, let me go look at the receipt or let me go reread the contract or maybe we blew it. Yeah. We're going to make it right though.
Yeah.
And if people know that, they'll do business with you.
I love that. And I love how you bring everything full circle. You're an exceptional communicator. And it makes sense. I know you do some speaking stuff too. Diving right into question 3, and this is one of my favorites. What is the lowest point you've felt in life from youngster, 1 year old to today, right? What is the lowest point you felt? And like help me and Oscar and Chase all understand like how that felt, but then how'd you break through?
Well, it's interesting you ask that because this is kind of been one of the lowest weeks of my life. I just did something that wasn't really honoring to my wife and wasn't consistent with who I want to be. And it's been super painful. It's super painful to see her feelings hurt after 34 years. Super disappointing for me to fail my own man code.
Yeah.
So it's been rough.
Yeah.
A lot of humility and apologies and commitment to repent and make it right.
Yeah. Yeah. And
so I hate that question.
Yeah. So you're the first guest, and I feel it, and I can sense you.
I'm like, I'm ready to cry, and I'm like,
yeah.
Let me tell you a story. When I was 21, I had but it's like I'm actually in like one of the most complicated weeks of my life.
Yeah. And I appreciate just your transparency, but it also speaks to your maturity. It speaks to your view on life and being on this interview. And for us, it's just provide as much value as possible, right? And how do we do that? I think it's being authentic to relate to anyone else, regardless if you're in business or whatever you're doing in life and you want to live a better life. That's who this podcast is for. So I appreciate it.
Well, it's interesting because it segues with what you were just saying, too, and what we were just talking about is that at least I can tell my wife, and she knows me, obviously, after multiple decades, is I'll make it right.
Yep.
I fall off the horse sometimes. I do things that I'm not proud of, but I'll make it right. And I'm going to have to re-earn her trust and, pay some consequences and, but I'm in it to win it.
Right.
So it's going to take time and it's a long haul, but this is no time to quit. It's like I need to double down and continue to learn.
Yeah. And I see it in your eyes, the
I
sincerity,
know.
the authenticity. We haven't had a guest yet that brought the timeliness of something like that. So I appreciate it, and this is very interesting. Now, why in the coaching space? Because you've worked with people. I know early on, you've been coaching for 25 years now, just as an executive coach, right? You're actually 2 months shy, but we're going to round up in this case.
Yeah, great.
Quarter of a century, right? You've been working with high performers, whether they're athletes to, I would go as far as saying like the top 2% of professionals in any degree that really just want to live their best life and are willing to work for it, and they know that all the opportunity costs that come with that, right? It's not just saying I'm going to work in business, but that means I have to become a better communicator. Right. I have to figure out who I am authentically too. Through the transition of working with people that early on wanted success and weren't there yet, and the challenges of like almost coaching them, and I'm sure that got repetitive, and it almost at times probably felt like you were a babysitter, and then that's like, well, maybe you aren't taking me as seriously as what I might assume, so that could be wrong. Why did you choose to work with the highest performing individuals, professionals, athletes in the world, and what would you say the biggest difference has been for you?
Well, some of that is just season of life. When I was younger, I was doing coaching programs and trying to work with whoever and, help them do their Fit Pro business or deal with emotional development or develop their brand or monetize their business, whatever. So my practice has evolved over the years, but, now that I'm in a more seasoned place, I look back and I see, a lot of these people have really great resources just being at your place not too long ago, right? You got a stack of books, you listen to podcasts, you read books, you're a learner, you're a lifelong learner, you're aggressive, you're assertive, you're out there, you're proactive. So content development is so amazing today. I mean, you guys are able to get so much. It's like coaching to me can't just be about content. I mean, that to me is great if you're 21, but the people I work with are movers and shakers already. They already are committed to all that. So I see my role more as helping them with the loneliness that comes with actually being a successful person. Some of the loneliness and, pastors, who pastors the pastor? Who
coaches the coach?
Who coaches the coach?
Yeah.
Men who helps the guy who's always giving and giving and giving. I believe that those people deserve someone to give to them too.
Yeah.
Like who resources and provides the confidentiality and the safe, sacred space that good leaders provide for their employees, their boards, their trustees. Who does that for them?
Yeah.
No one. And after burying several of my fraternity brothers or, friends or seeing the demise of life, people going through false accusations, going through the envy that happens sometimes when you're successful, just the trials. I'm like, who's going to help the alpha?
Yeah.
The alpha is the giver. The alpha is the provider. The alpha is the protector. Who's going to give to them? And so I've really enjoyed working with that. And quite frankly, you know, whether they're an Olympian or a Tiger Woods, the best in the world like getting better. And sometimes they do that with someone in their corner. And so I think of every boxer deserves a coach in his corner. Every Top Gun deserves a wingman on his flank. Everyone who's out there trying to lead deserves someone who's quietly there to make sure that they get what they need.
Yes. Amen. And yeah, I love these conversations because I'm literally getting coached on these, and I love that I don't have to pay you for this session. Like this is hey, let's just get it on video and make sure we're providing.
Well, you can't afford me anyway. So,
no, exactly.
You know.
But one of these years, give me 8 years, and then we'll be there, right?
But you know, you're a great example. You can see you're a Top Gun. You know, you're moving, and some of the people that are listening to the kind of content that you're bringing them, you guys are Top Guns. You're out there. You're on the edge. You know, you're on the front lines. You're leading. You're pushing. But it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Decade after decade. Certainly, you can have a good run at it, or a good 5 years. Sometimes a good decade. But you're not going to have a great life doing it by yourself. And as you climb the ladder, you start to realize, wow, it's complicated and it's difficult and there's things to navigate. So it's like, well, steward your soul. Make sure you eat well, get enough sleep, stay hydrated, exercise, get a lot of love around you, and get a coach, you know, someone who's stealth and undercover and in your corner. No one even needs to know about it.
Yeah.
But is giving you what you give everyone else.
Yes. Such a good point here, because I don't think the majority of the world realizes that if you want to be the best in any area of life, I think it's easy to obviously think I'm relating to an athlete, and that's one way. But I think in business and life, it's you want to start your own startup, and it's a janitorial company, and you're going to clean high-rise apartments, right? I met a cleaning lady, and she gave me a business card a couple days ago, and I'm like, this is awesome, right? Or the person outside of Albertsons 3 months into COVID selling masks right outside because they were sold out all over. And it's like, I go up, give that conversation, like give that compliment. Now, whatever level of professional or just human you are, I don't think the rest of the world realizes, and I know I didn't for a long time, that there are coaches behind the scenes. The people that you see content from, whether it's like Gary Vee, it's Grant Cardone, it's Andy Frisella, it's Ed Milet, it's Rob Sharma, it's Brandon Burchard. These are all people that we would look at and go, they're coaches. They are the highest level. I know that's what I would always say. And I didn't realize until a few years ago that they all have coaches. And it's usually not even one. It's like multiple, right? And what's really cool with Uptown Creation is that we've always valued that a ton. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason we started working with coaches, consultants, speakers, and authors early on, now we're fortunate to work with a handful of other industries, but it was because we just liked the conversations just like this. It's like, we speak the same lingo. You love self-development. Oh, wait, you coach it. You'll hold me accountable too? All right. And we, as a company, we pay for almost everyone to have some type of coach internally. So like for me, having a B2B sales coach or 2 at a time, and then a leadership coach, right? Making sure, because it's what do you value that you know, if you really look at yourself in the mirror and you go, who am I? What am I good at? I know I'm good at a couple things, a few things, like, and I'm going to leverage those. But there's also areas that I'm aware of that I want to work on. And I know to be at the level that I want to be, I need someone that's already living that lifestyle, right? Or that's already executed that. And I share this simply because I want, and we've never talked about this on other interviews, but it is so critical. And one of the easiest ways to get better in life, laws of proximity, or, is it Robert Greene, and this is proven by study after study, we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time around. And I'm not going to say it in the cliche way, but it literally goes down to the detail of the person you spend the most time around is the person that is reflecting you and influencing you the most. The second person, second most, right? So those 5 people are so important. And I had to go through a little transition. And it wasn't cutting people out of my life, but it was distancing. I don't believe in burning bridges, but I started distancing myself. I limited communication. That had to happen, right? And I'm going to bring this full circle because what you brought up was that you can get some hate when you start to feel a little bit of momentum. And I've always known that, right? I've read it in the books, and I've always had this mindset of like, I've got the battle helmet on, and I'm just like ready to storm Normandy, right? And just in the last 2 weeks, there's been someone that has like gone out of their way, male, female, I don't even care, that loves to state things that are trying to bring people down. And I get excited about it. I haven't had someone in the last couple of years that has been this consistent. Props to you. Thank you. Because this reminds me of who I'm going to be. And it's just interesting the angles that they take. And the business partners are like, we all laugh about it in the sense of like, it's funny. What's cool is this used to hurt me, right? And I'm going to be real. It used to hurt me when this kind of thing. It's like, hey, I'm working so hard and I'm scared to start this because I don't know. The first company we started, I couldn't even get friends to model for our bag company that was funded on Kickstarter already, right? Because they were like, well, I don't want to associate and I get where they were coming from. They didn't tell me this. This is what I conceptualized was like, hey, I don't know if your company is going to be successful or not. Right. I don't want to be a reflection of, I was your model for this and like, you went under a year later. So I get it. Now it doesn't as much, but there's still definitely a little bit that's like, it's interesting.
If you're a human being, you're impacted by people, but we don't want to be regulated by the haters. They're everywhere. And envy is everywhere. I mean, we're living in a world, I don't want to get overly political, but the politics of envy right now are so divisive, trying to get people to choose between red and blue, between white and black, and this and that, and it's terrible. It's so divisive. I mean, I love this country, and almost everyone I know loves this country. And I know lots of people, and they love people, and they get along. But you'd never know watching the news at night because there's always forces trying to divide us and cluster us into groups and identity politics, and it's terrible. And business has that too. Life has that too. So, and reffing is that way, and part of getting out there and reffing is not only making the call, but selling the call. Life is about decisions, and decisions are destiny. And you've got to have the courage and the balls to get out there and say, you know what, I'm going to serve this game by making good calls that are going to make a difference. And some people will like them and some people won't. And I'm happy to absorb the frustration and angst that they have because someone needs to be big enough here to handle it.
Yeah.
Have you seen a really good referee go, back to the audience or throw something back at a coach or why are you mad at me? Or, it's like, whoa. I mean, that's our young officials, right? It's getting all personal and he's yelling at me and they want to tee the coach and throw him out. I'm like, diffuse the coach. His job's on the line. Take it. It's okay. Absorb it. You can't see, I probably can't, but come on, your yelling's not going to help me, right?
Yeah.
So absorb it and flex with it and be successful and enjoy it. And as you're already saying with your success and you're a young guy with lots of decades ahead, people will come after you and they can be family, they can be friends, could be your own business partner, by the way, just a heads up, working with your own partners, your own trustees, your own... People are fallen. People are selfish. People can be sinful. Jesus himself, I don't know if you're a follower of Christ, but he said, beware when all men speak well of you. Because if all men speak well of you, you're not taking a stand. He'd rather you be hot or cold. Like, you got to get out there. And but if you get out there and you're defined, whether it's a great product, a referee's call, or you make a decision for your family, that someone's going to have a surgery and we're going to do it, people aren't going to like it.
Yeah.
That's okay. It's okay. Particularly if you're a man. Like, you got a chest for that. So take it.
Right? Someone has to make the decision.
Absolutely.
Right? Someone has to peel the Band-Aid.
And then go to your coach, right? And then you can go behind the scenes and process it so you don't use your family, you don't use your church, you don't use your business, you don't use your colleagues to work your stuff out. That's not professional. No. You go somewhere privately that you can work it out so that you can show up how you want to show up and impact people for the good.
Yeah. And a couple of the points I want to make there, for me, I don't have like a psychiatrist that I see on a regular basis. I think they're beautiful. My older sister, a huge role model in my life, is one. And I view my coaches as that, male and female coaches, right? Mm-hmm. There's 2 to 3 that I'll work with in different capacities depending on where we're at as a company. for different areas, right? Leadership, sales, and then, some other stuff, some linguistic programming stuff on the side that intrigues me, and we'll talk about that later too. We didn't have that conversation at breakfast. And not only are these performers, for me, it's like, this is someone I trust, but also I've learned in life that I can't take advice from people I don't look up to, and I can't take advice from someone that hasn't done what I'm looking to do, right? So it's very difficult. I went through a transition at the end of college. I'd read it in the books for a long time, right? The simple way to put this is like, I gotta stop using the cliche, like, don't take diet advice from the obese person, but I don't mean that in any kind of bad way, but it's like this metaphor. Why would you everyone has an opinion, and I used to listen to everyone's, and now it's the circle's very small. Like, I only value the opinions of people I trust and that I know have the best intentions for me, but then they also have to be living a life that I'd be willing to switch shoes with. And I think there's multiple levels of qualifiers for that. And what does that environment provide? A place where I can tell them openly everything.
Right.
Everything. And I have no filter. And it feels so good to talk to them. And I'm starting to realize a lot of times I know the answers, but I just need someone I can trust and talk to. I'd say, okay, 70% of the time. And then there's like the actual work.
Everyone wants that. Everyone wants that. The question is, do they want to do that with their wife when it could be some complex dynamic with their wife? Do they want to do it with their kids when some of it could be about how they're parenting their kids? Do they want to do it with their partner or their best friend or their trustees? Sometimes they're like, I want to do it in a separate space that has no judgment, no condemnation, confidentiality, so I can get it out of my head, put the clay on the wheel, and think what I want to think. Smart people figure it out. It's not like they need a therapist or a coach to give them the answers. They need the space to talk it out. And I've seen more guys, and gals at times say, you know what, now that I'm talking it out, I think I need to go this way. And I'm like, you get to see them solve their problem and stuff, but it's stuck in their head. And they get it out with someone that can contain it. And by the way, you may be listening to this and go, well, I don't have a coach. I've never had a coach. You guys have so many coaches already, you don't even know how many coaches you have.
Explain that. What does it mean?
Some of these people have a chiropractor, you have a dentist, you have a doctor, you have a pool man, you have a tax guy, you have a gardener. You have lots of people. You have a car mechanic. In other words, in your adult life, you already have a lot of people that help you do your life well. When my car breaks down, I don't go resolve it. I can put gas in it, I can change the oil, but like if there's a problem, I have a guy for that. If I get unaligned, I go to my chiropractor. If I get super sick, right, okay, I can take flu medicine and stuff, but like it gets complicated, I have a doctor. I brush my teeth, but if I get a real problem, I go to a dentist. Like most people already have a dozen professionals that they pay money for in their life to help them live well, because it's not really easy to live well with a toothache and cancer going on, and the car's not running, and the plumbing is broken. And so you already have people that help you with all that you invest in, and it's a good return. A coach he's that last piece that says, whether I'm your therapist, because I help you kind of process that mental stuff. And by the way, I didn't get a PhD to become a coach.
Yeah.
Got a PhD to become a physician of the soul, to help people really think well, have a fortified mind, be unregulated by all the craziness of the world. So it's like, I already have these other resources. I want a guy who can help me with my head, a guy who loves me, a guy who's for me, a guy who's not judgmental, a guy who can listen to whatever, a guy who can reflect and mirror and give insight and actually has some experience. I think everyone should have one. And I have a coach, and I've had him for years. So,
and on that note, I think there's this level of having a mentor. And in college, it worked really well because you can play what I call the student card. And it works well, right? And later in my adult life, I still play the student card. I don't mean that in any kind of artificial way, but it's like I come to someone I really look up to, and I let them know authentically why I look up to them and that I value their time, and I just love to learn. And if, you could carve, if it's possible, is it even possible to hop on a 15-minute call in the next week or two, whenever you have time? That's one level. What I've found the momentum picked up in my life when I started paying out of my own pocket, right? Because there's one aspect of like the first few coaches were like, it was all through the business, and that's one. But then when I started doing it, now, why do I think that? My current theory, and I'm pretty confident it's true, we're speaking to our subconscious. Like, I'm telling my subconscious, this is how much I value myself, and I'm willing to do that because I invest in myself. And I think in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and it doesn't matter what age you are, the best investment is always in yourself. Before crypto, before Forex, before NFTs, before, like, it is in yourself. And leverage age and where we're at now. Oh, it looks like pouring another tequila. and it comes all over the place. I wish I would have known this earlier. I didn't start paying out of pocket for my own on the side until like the last few months. And I've seen a huge shift. I take it that much more seriously. I experience the benefits that much more. And so what I'm saying here and where I'm going with all of this is that I think there's something special in also paying. And there are coaches out there that offer this type of experience when you're brand new to it, and maybe financials are difficult. But if you can allot, $250 to $500 a month, like there are people out there that'll give you a coaching session every other week, right? Like I've been fortunate to talk to a lot of them.
Skin in the game is significant. And the other thing is, I've never worked with a client. It doesn't matter if they pay $1 a month or $1 million. I believe if they invest $1, they'll make $2. And who wouldn't pay $1 million if by working with someone you made $5? It's just a no-brainer. In other words, if you get your character right, you get your head right, you get your soul right, you get your life right, it pays off. You get higher paying jobs, you get better opportunities, you're more on your game. So I've never, I would gladly say to someone if they paid money for coaching and they're like, I didn't get my values worth. It didn't work. I didn't get what I wanted. Take it back. I'm not going to have one client who's going to say, I worked with Dr. Dave and I don't know, just didn't do it. No, I want every client to say, that was one of the best dollars I've ever spent. And it doesn't matter how much it is, I made more.
Yeah. I love that. And you mentioned, because I think a lot of us, especially young professionals, it's easy to chase money. And without going down the rabbit hole of like, does money make you happier? Because I'm starting to think that there are ways that it can make life easier as the tool it is. Where what I mean by this is also just enabling yourself to feel happiness. Because I think that's, in reality, if we really just simplify it down, what is everyone chasing? We define it as success. A lot of us, and I was guilty of this for a long time, and I still catch myself, it's chasing money. But in reality, it boils down to chasing happiness. We just want to be happy. Now, we all define happiness in vastly different ways, right? I think money could be one. One could be giving back to the world, right? Mm-hmm. Impacting 1 billion lives. It could be starting a nonprofit and changing underprivileged people wherever they're at in the world. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the other aspect. If you want to be happy, and the magic is once you're happy, you're probably living a more congruent life, right? Meaning the values that you value, you're living aligned with them. You're taking actions aligned with them. And I'm still working on those, right? But I've never been so close to it. And I've never been this close to knowing who the authentic Conor is. And what's magical on this external world that we're looking at, the physical world, God damn, it's picking up. And it feels good. It feels good. If you would have talked to me 6 months ago and I had this feeling, I wouldn't have the confidence to even be able to talk about it. So I love what you said. You bring up, again, I learned so much just in these conversations.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of my profile stuff says like I'm a success life coach or something. But I'll be candid with you. Success isn't going to satisfy you. It's just not going to do it. You can look at the life of Marilyn Monroe or Elvis Presley or people that make $1 zillion. It's not going to do it.
Yeah.
If someone comes to me and says, Dave, I want you to coach me because I just want to make $1 million, I might go to Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
I want to work with people who want to make a difference. I like working with influencers. I like people who are mature enough to know I don't mind my own success because everyone I work with is pretty successful, but I'm here to not take up space.